Today on the Travel Magazine, a trip to Europe. We'll show you the best ways to get around Germany. Traveling by train is an economical way to see the sights. And we'll visit the Kingdom of Glass in Smaland, Sweden. It's a world-renowned glass work center. But first, to Triberg in southern Germany. This little town is the first stop on our tour. It's in the heart of the Black Forest, the home of the cuckoo bird. And it was here, in 1750, that the cuckoo clock was invented. I'm standing under the world's largest cuckoo clock, and there's a reason for it. This is Triberg, a small town in Germany's Black Forest, and it's here that tourists come to buy unique handmade cuckoo clocks. Today, the town caters to tourists. There are romantic hotels, hiking trails in the surrounding mountains, and stores that sell all kinds of cuckoo clocks.
Triberg was always a well-known town for guests coming from abroad and also for tourists. And since the cuckoo clock was invented nearby, and Triberg as a small town had the stores and the shops to sell and to offer such clocks, that's probably the reason why Triberg has become the center of cuckoo clocks.
But Triberg didn't always have stores to sell them in. That's why in the old days, there was somebody called a clock trader. Jochen Müller recreates the role as part of a tourist attraction. What is the story behind cuckoo clock traders?
The farmers on the farms, they have built the cuckoo clocks in the wintertime. They have carved it and put the engine in the inside. And in the early spring, the cuckoo clock trader came. He collected all the cuckoo clocks. He carried it on a bag and walked up to abroad and all over Germany. He sold it in North America and in Russia.
There's also the Hubert Hare Clock Factory. It was founded over 100 years ago, and it still makes cuckoo clocks in the traditional way.
We at Hubert Hare are the only cuckoo clock factory in Germany making the three important parts of the clock. That's the movement, the case, and the carving. Now we start on the metal side with the small wheel production, the different levers, the different chain wheels for the clocks. Then the next step would be the assembly of the mechanical movement, and then the mechanical movement is put with the bellows, dials and the cuckoo bird into the case for final assembly. And the other side is the woodworking part. There we start on the raw wood, cutting it into different sizes, into different designs, cut it out, the leaves and the birds, and then the carver starts his work. Every cuckoo clock is still hand carved, and it's just like handwriting. Every handwriting from the different person is different, and the cuckoo clock carving is just the same. Every carver has his own style of cutting the birds and also the leaves.
There's a lot of different styles of clocks to choose from. One is modeled after a 1640 original, and it's still made today the way it was all those years ago.
The original cuckoo clock was just a what we call stone and wooden wheel clock. It only had 1 hour hand, and for the weight the people just use stones, and then the wheels and the wooden frame has been put together just to show the time. We still make the clocks today as genuine reproductions of those old clocks from 1640, and the stones we still get the same way as many hundred years ago from the river nearby, just being collected. So every stone is different, has a different shape, and every clock is an individual item.
Triberg is just one of a number of charming towns located in this region of southern Germany. The area is popular with hikers, and you can explore hundreds of hiking trails which run through this region of the Black Forest. A walking tour gives tourists a chance to see some traditional sights. Make sure to stop by the Hotel Wehrle. It's one of the most romantic hotels we've come across, with the best restaurant in town. Next, we'll find out about getting there by train.
Wiederhole, Herr Surhof, Sie werden gebeten, im Kundendienstschaltgleis 9 vorzusprechen.
One of the decisions you'll have to make once you've decided to visit Germany is how you're going to get around to see the country. An attractive alternative is German rail.
We have a very reliable and comfortable and fast transportation system by rail in Europe, especially in Germany. We have the so-called intercity system, and this intercity system means that you have a connection to more than 50 cities all over Germany in hourly intervals from early in the morning to late night. And even Frankfurt Airport is included in this intercity system. And we go very fast. We have an average speed of nearly 80 miles per hour, and our transportation system provides very comfortable compartments. We have, of course, air conditioning. We have a dining car in the intercity trains, and it's really nice. The landscape is rolling by, and you can relax in the train, and this is the most convenient transportation system we have.
What is the Lufthansa Express?
The Lufthansa Airport Express is a train chartered by Lufthansa from German Federal Railway and is used as a plane on ground. That means people coming to Germany with an international flight ticket, they can use the Lufthansa Airport Express as a train when they have a flight number, when they need air connection. That means maybe from Chicago or from Montreal to Frankfurt, and they want to go to Cologne.
When people arrive by train in whatever city or town, is the railway station centrally located?
You see, railway stations are always in the heart of the city or in the heart of a small village or a small town. And also you have hotels and other convenience around the station.
If you're thinking of getting around Germany by train, pick up a German Rail tourist card. Basically, it's a railway pass. It's cheaper to buy before you leave, and once you get there, it will save you a substantial amount of money. For further information, contact German National Railways or your travel agent. Coming up, a visit to the Kingdom of Crystal in Smaland, Sweden.
Hi, I'm Deborah Burgess, and this is Kalmar Castle overlooking the Baltic Sea. It was constructed by King Gustav Vasa in the 16th century, although it does have a few 12th century towers incorporated into its walls. The town of Kalmar has been settled since pre-Viking times, actually rating a few mentions on some ancient rune stones, and it was very valuable in defending Sweden against its invaders. The town of Kalmar today presides over a somewhat calmer atmosphere. It's the chief port of Smaland, an area about which we may not know a great deal as a whole, although we're certainly familiar with some of its small towns and villages, like Orrefors, Kosta, and Boda. Smaland is the Kingdom of Crystal.
The province of Smaland is in southern Sweden, about halfway between Stockholm and Copenhagen. There are 16 glassworks in the region, predominantly between Kalmar on the coast and Växjö inland to the west. The routes are well-maintained country highways, passing by farms and villages, and the beautiful forests which attracted settlers and ironworks to the area. Traditional architectural styles dominate. We found several examples of the classic grass roof, which apparently is very good insulation, as well as being quite easy to maintain.
You can trace much of Smaland's history over the last 200 years through its glass museums. The largest of these is in Växjö, although many of the independent glassworks display their fragile beginnings. This is the first piece of glass produced at Kosta in 1742. It's called a bull's-eye window pane. It was spun on the end of a glass rod, right from the center here. The results may have changed, but the techniques of glassmaking essentially have not.
Glass from the beginning was originated in the desert. That's what the old story tells us. It was the people in the desert, when they had a fire to make their meal in the evening. After the fire had blown out, they found that in the sand there were pieces of crystal, and that was how they found out that sand was being able to turn into crystal.
When did people first figure out how to produce glass artificially?
Well, it was about 1500 years before Christ in Egypt. They started to produce glass. And then the glass had been moving north to Venice, and then further to Bohemia. And in the 16th century, it came to Sweden for the first time. Early production was really two kinds of productions. It was the production for the royal family and for the churches. They had those beautiful bowls with the etchings on them with different kind of patterns. But also they produced the small medicine bottles, and they were for the pharmacies. They needed the small bottles. So we have some pieces left of that.
You have one of the most magnificent pieces of crystal I've ever seen. Tell me about that.
Yes, this is a very beautiful bowl. This was made for the last Tsar of Russia. It weighs about 17 kilo when you catch the glass from the oven, so it's very, very hard to do. Also, the cutting is extremely hard. You can notice at the bowl it's very magnificent cut, and it takes about a week to do the cutting of that bowl.
This is a modern hot shop, appropriate name, and it operates pretty much the same way today as the hot shops of yesteryear. A bowl gatherer picks up the amount of molten glass he needs on the end of a blowpipe. He blows a small amount of air into the glass to get it started. For some pieces, a servitor would take the next step, lowering the glass into a wooden mold while blowing and rotating the glass, creating a perfectly shaped bowl. A gaffer might then attach an extra blob of glass to make a stem or base or neck. Glass making is very much a team effort.
Så är fallet
It's the perfect way to end a day at the glassworks. The Hötzill at Orrefors serves the traditional foods with the incredible Smaland cheesecake for dessert. And the glassworks minstrels know how to please a crowd. But the biggest treat surely is when the guests have a turn, no pun intended, at glass blowing. It looks easy, right? But the masters show you just how far away we are from the art.
The travel magazine will be back with more after this.
For many of us, the word crystal conjures up images of cut goblets, service for 8, not much more. But a visit to one of Smaland's crystal design studios should open your eyes.
The major manufacturers, Kosta and Orrefors, produce a vast inventory of household items. And yet, in some ways, the design studio pieces and art glass are more important to the companies.
The designers here has very good and completely freedom to do what they think and what they would like to do. And when they are doing a thing, when they are producing it, then it is not modern. But when it's finished, then it is. And I think that's more or less the success of this company. When you see the sun through the glass and the crystal with this color, you get so good fantasy. You can imagine things inside the color. I like it very much.
Even when a big company takes over a small glassworks, they retain the unique visions of the individual designers. Ulrika Hudman-Wallin designs for Kosta artist collection from her highly personal studio in Orrefors, and her visions in glass are anything but ordinary.
I wanted to put my own personality into the glass, and I wanted to give it something you could see was me in there. I wanted it big. And I wanted it blue and green, so we rolled the clear glass in blue and green color. And then I painted black rats on them, and I said, here it is, that's me.
Ulrika's pieces are totally unique. In addition to the art glass, she also designs production line items that bear the Hudman-Wallin mark.
So I put a little clear snake around a stem on a wine glass. And I put a little face on the production line, open face, vases and goblets. And I think I succeed in that way that people today, when they see something from me, they immediately know, oh, this is Ulrika, and I like that feeling. It's fun.
Ulrika's production line designs are carried out by the factory's team of glass artists. The art glass pieces, of course, she does all by herself.
Well, we've talked about the history of crystal, the making of crystal, the blowing of crystal, the cutting of crystal, the engraving of crystal, the collecting of crystal. I think it's time we got down to the real reason some people come to Smaland, the buying of crystal. A lot of the factories have what we would call factory outlets, and you know what that means. The factory outlet in Kosta is the biggest, and the selection is great.
The best bargains are generally on discontinued items, but with a sharp eye, you can make a small killing on the crystal market. The factories do ship for you, but the charges are usually calculated by weight, so purchase with a "how will I get this home" in mind.
Now, it's important to remember when you're shopping at a factory boutique that, as with all factory outlets, the items on display are seconds. Now, that doesn't mean they're inferior glass. It has another meaning. Diana Hansing is the guide here at Costa Boda, and she's going to explain what makes a first and what makes a second. So,
Well, basically, of course, the glass doesn't come up to our very rigid specifications. But saying that, it doesn't mean they're not your specifications, because a glass is an individual. As we're all individuals, so a glass is individual. So it's what you like that makes the glass perfect, not a second.
oh, this is the life. You know, Smaland is certainly deserving its moniker, Kingdom of Crystal, but even for people who don't like crystal, it's becoming an increasingly popular destination because it has natural campsites, beautiful clean rivers and lakes for swimming, canoeing, and fishing. It has hiking trails, and the bike paths are everywhere. This one actually goes for 120 kilometers. I think next time I'll do the whole tour on a bike. It's also served by 2 airports, so it's easy to get to. You can save your energy for the bike. I'm Deborah Burgess for Travel Magazine. See you next time.